Good morning, students. I am Dr. Pradeep Johnson, professor in the Department of Mechatronics Engineering. Today, I am going to discuss about the basics of welding process. So, what do you understand by the term welding? So, welding is a process of joining metals with the application of heat, with or without the application of pressure, and with or without the application of filler metal to form a metallurgical joint. So, this is a basic definition of welding. Moving on to the types of welding, it is broadly classified into fusion and non-fusion welding. So under fusion welding, you have mainly gas welding, TIG welding, brazing, MIG welding, SAW welding, and under non-fusion category, we have forge welding, resistance welding, thermal spraying, electron beam welding, and laser beam welding, soldering. So these are some of the classifications of welding. Moving on to the types of joints that is primarily used in welding. There are basically 5 types of joint that is used in welding. The first one is a commonly used joint known as a butt joint, where we butt joint the plates and then a welding is performed here. The next type is a lap joint, where you can see the plates are overlapped over one another and the joint is formed. The third type is a T joint, where the components are placed in a typical T shape. The next type is a corner joint, and the last type is a edge joint. So moving on to the parts of a weld, or commonly known as a fillet weld terminology. So you can see the face and toe area that is part of a weld joint, and you can see in the category of a groove weld joint on the face and toe compared to the fillet weld terminology. So these are the commonly used welding positions. The first one is a fillet weld. The second category is a groove weld. So you can see different weld positions like flat positions, horizontal position, vertical position, and overhead position. So why is welding important? So as you can see everywhere, welding plays a major role. So many things around us are welded, like pipelines that we use to bring fresh water, the towers that you see that brings electricity to houses, the cars and buses that we take for going from place. These are all made using welding. And similarly, next comes the normal question, can all the metals be welded? In this category, most of the metals can be welded, but not all. The commonly weldable materials are classified into 3 categories. They are mild steel, which is considered as inexpensive but also strong. The second category is stainless steel. The main USP of this metal is it does not rust. And the third category is aluminum. It is lightweight and it also does not rust. So moving on to the next type of welding, arc welding. So this is one of the basic type of welding. So what is arc welding? So it is basically a welding process that is primarily used to join 2 pieces of metal. So here what happens is the welder creates an electric arc that melts the base metal, and we use a film metal that is a consumable metal, and this fuses the solid piece of metal into one piece. So in the bottom figure we can see 3 figures. We can see the different type of arc welding, where the first one is a tack welding, and the second one is a stringer bead welding, and the third one is a normal full arc welding. So what are the basic steps involved in arc welding? So first we have to prepare the base materials, that is we have to remove the paint and rust, and then we have to choose the right welding process, and then we have to choose the right filler metal, and then we have to comply with the safety requirements, and the welder has to employ proper welding techniques so that the molten puddle does not contaminate with the air. And then once it is done, we have to inspect the weld for any defects. So this figure shows the arc welding circuit. So here you can see the electricity flows from the power source through the electrode and across the arc through the base material to the work lead and back to the power source. So this completes the welding circuit for an arc welding. Next category is shielded metal arc welding. So the image shows the basic layout of a shielded metal arc welding. So shielded metal arc welding is also commonly known as stick welding or manual arc welding. And it is also one of the widely used arc welding processes in the world, and this can be used to weld most common metals and alloys. So this image again shows the shielded metal arc welding circuit, which comprises the arc welding power source, the electrode holder, the work table, and the electrode. So again, the current flows through the electrode cable to the electrode holder, through the electrode and across the arc. On the work side of the arc, the current flows through the base material to the work clamp and back to the welding machine. So this is the basic welding circuit. So the image shows the shielded metal arc welding equipment setup. So these are the different steps we need to follow. The first one is to turn the power supply on. Next, we have to connect the work clamp, and then we have to select the electrode. That includes the type of the electrode and also the diameter of the electrode. And then we have to adjust power output for polarity and amperage. And then we have to insert the electrode into the electrode holder. So moving into a closer look at the shielded metal arc welding. So why it is known as a shielded metal arc is we have a shielding glass. So that this shielding gas provides a protective layer over this weld so that the air contaminant does not pollute the weld. So we get a clean weld. The shielded gas can be any inert gas. So you can see the important categories here is the electrode. So it is a consumer electrode. It gets melted during the welding process. And it is composed of two parts. The first one is the core rod or the filler metal, and the next one is a flux coating. So this flux coating produces a shielding gas, and this forms a slag after the welding is done. The second important category is the arc. So an arc occurs when the electrode comes into contact with the workpiece and completes the circuit like turning on a light. So the electric arc is established in the space between the end of the electrode and the workpiece, and here the temperature is in the range of more than 10,000 degree Fahrenheit, which melts the electrode. And third is an important is the weld puddle. So as the core rod flux heating and the pieces heat up, it forms a pool of molten material called the weld puddle. So moving on to the next important type is the shielding gas. So as I mentioned earlier, the shielding gas here protects the molten puddle from the atmosphere while stabilizing the arc. So the shielding gas is formed when the flux coating melts. This protects the weld puddle from the atmosphere, preventing contamination. And the image shows the solidified weld metal that is formed between two base material. So the excess or the waste slag is chipped off after the welding is done. So these categories or steps shows the different stages in the shielded metal arc welding process. So these slides give an insight to the basic welding process. Thank you.